There we go. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Pep Talks. Today, I am joined by the very beautiful Polly Pollock. Please tell me I'm pronouncing your surname correctly.
You got it right. Yeah, Polly
Perfect.
Pollock.
Polly Pollock. So, as with all of my guest episodes, I like the guest to introduce themselves. So, I'm going to hand straight over to Polly and ask her to introduce herself, tell us a little bit about what she does, and maybe a little bit about how you've got to where you're. Blah. Right. I've just shared with Polly before I hit record that this is going to go out raw and unedited. So you're going to get me raw and unedited, stumbling over my words. Um, I'm going to ask Polly to introduce herself, tell us a little bit about what she does and why she does what she does and what her sort of backstory is. So over to you, Polly, and hopefully you can be a bit more articulate with your words than I just have been.
Do you know, I wouldn't hold your breath because I'm the same, and me stumbling over my words is literally an integral part of my brand. So we're the same.
Amazing. We're here. We're definitely here for this today then.
We are. So yeah, I'm Polly Pollock. So I'm a marketing mentor for coaches, practitioners, online, kind of helping professions, so to speak, with ADHD and overall kind of busy brains who are in the process of taking their business full time and beyond, and they want to do that without the use of social media or with a social
Mm.
media optional business. So my focus really is on building sustainable marketing systems and the whole kind of marketing ecosystem to fit your life, your capacity, your energy and really your unique strengths, because a lot of people kind of try and squeeze themselves into the box of social media. And that's not really how a lot of coaches, practitioners, and teachers like to share. And it feels very confined. So yeah, results with clients coming in, but also results with your happiness and you feeling like you're actually you're in your zone when you market rather than feeling suffocated. So yeah, that was a really long and drawn out way of saying what I do.
No, no, no. I love that. I loved everything about that. I loved the idea of not being on social media. I love the idea, or at least minimizing your time on social media rather than being completely off it, but just keeping it small, a small part of your marketing strategy. And I love the fact that it's about joyful marketing, alignment with your own energy, alignment with what works for you. So, um, what brought you to this place? And then we'll dig a bit into what you've just shared as well about the sort of the offline marketing, as it were.
Yeah. So my story getting into business, I think I always knew I was going to be a business owner. I started work from a very young age. I kind of got my first kind of foot in the corporate door at 17, went into marketing and sales then, was very on and off. I did a lot of various jobs kind of in between. And in my last corporate job, I was made redundant at the time that I thought I'm gonna kind of take my on the side business at the time, which was a spiritual business. I'm gonna try and do that full time. Then, ironically, the stars aligned and pushed me into redundancy. So that was the best thing that ever happened to me. I got into business and went into the online world and was instantly kind of overwhelmed. I even hired a very questionable business coach at that time. This was when I became a coach myself, and I was told social media is all the rage now. You got to forget all of the marketing and sales stuff you thought knew in your kind of professional life, because that doesn't matter. You got to post on Instagram, evolve or die, yada yada yada. And I wasn't traditionally like burnt out, as in like real burnout, but I was borderline obsessing over metrics and just the real vanity side of it. The real, I mean, the dopamine part of the deficient part of my brain was really craving that kind of those hits of like, oh, you got more views, as an ADHDer, it's very dangerous for
Yeah.
us. And so I was fed that for a really long time, and I think my system was really gripping onto like, no, social media is the only way, and that came with a lot of problems. I didn't see the growth that I wanted to in my business. I actually went viral a few times and grew my account. In it for a period of kind of like 6 months, I was going viral pretty much nonstop. and it wasn't doing anything for my business that I would expect it to do from that. Yeah, it helped a bit, but it wasn't worth the stress that I was feeling. And then I stopped going viral. Instagram just decided it was not going to push my content out anymore. So I was kind of forced to relook at things, like I said, from like two angles of, okay, what's really going to bring clients in sustainably, but what's not going to burn me out. Like I realized I wouldn't even be on social media if I didn't have a business. I actually don't like social media very much. Never been on it for personal, apart from when I was like, a teenager when, MSN was just coming out and all of that, that stuff of my generation. So I really rebuilt things in a way that was going to work with my brain, and my life and what was going to be sustainable to maintain. So that was really what got me here teaching it now.
Amazing. Okay. So I'm intrigued. I want to go back a little step,
Mhm.
because you mentioned about spiritual business, and I know that's not what we're here to talk about, but I'm just too intrigued to not be able
Yeah.
to ask. So, what was your spiritual business? Could you share?
Yeah, so back in the day, I started out as a tarot reader and Reiki therapist. That was my in-person business. Then I went into being a coach, it was kind of like a spiritual life coach. That was what I called myself in my first coaching business. Did that for a little bit. That was where I really, really struggled. And then came my first kind of kind of successful brand, which was the Lazy Witch. That was really cool. And that was spirituality for neurodivergent people. And that was really just like spirituality made simple. So I had a lot of fun with that because obviously spirituality and just kind of personal development and wellness can feel really overwhelming for a lot of people, and they just kind of don't do anything with it because it's overwhelming. So that was really what I did. Um, and then I kind of accidentally got into business coaching. So people were just asking me at the time. This was after I had that questionable business coach. People weren't getting the results that they had hoped for, so people were kind of coming to me for help, and I was like, I don't want to see anyone like struggle, so I'm just going to do this and help people. And then after that, more people started asking me, like, can you help me with marketing? And I'm like, sure. And it was really weird because I enjoyed that. I remember thinking, oh my gosh, I enjoy this so much more than my spiritual side of
Oh,
things.
wow.
And I felt so bad. I was like, oh my gosh, this isn't right. Like, how do I enjoy this way more? And it felt so weird because, you feel like you should like the more kind of fluid and flowy kind of work more. And I didn't. And I was just like, what's happening? And so that progressed. And then a few years ago, or 2.5 years ago, I think my dates are all mixed up in my head. It's all jumbled into one. I then, yeah, I think it was about 2 years ago actually. I looked at my client feedback for the year, and I looked and I saw that every single person was either ADHD or autistic. And I was like, this is weird. This can't be a coincidence. And so that's where it kind of led me to create Neuropreneur Rising and help ADHDers and busy brains. And then the evolution to now with the off social media.
I love that. I love that. I mean, my we won't go into the history of my business, but mine's evolved and gone in all different
Yeah.
directions. So I'm very much like, yeah, I'm with you on this evolutionary phase. And I
Hmm.
think it's fascinating that you lean into something that you think is going to give you all the joy, and then actually purely by coincidence, something else comes along into your arena. And that's the thing that actually gives you the joy. And I was chatting to somebody this morning and saying we have to explore opportunities, because if we don't explore the opportunities, we don't know what they might bring for us. And so I guess by you exploring your spiritual business, your lazy witch, I love that, by the way, your tarot and your Reiki, and then if you hadn't explored that, I wonder if those accidental business conversations would have ever happened, and whether
Yeah.
you'd be where you are now. And it just goes to show that even when we feel like we've had a bit of a diversion, the
Mm.
diversion was for a reason, and the universe is always watching and listening. And I'm guessing you still bring a little bit of spirituality into what you do now, even though you're more of a business coach.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely, I used to. There's always things like mindset, looking at your patterns. It's huge in the work that I do with my students. Looking at your underlying kind of things that we got to work on in business in order to actually move forward. Um, I used to bring it in a lot more heavily than I do now, and that's really just because I go off of the needs of my students, and
Yeah.
my students in the last kind of couple of years have really, really needed the help with the the strategy and the mindset and the yeah, like I said, the working on the patterns kind of beneath that. So it's not necessarily like I'll whip my tarot cards out in the middle of a
No,
group
no,
call
no.
now, but but there are, yeah, there's always elements of the personal journey that comes with the business. But you're so right. Like those diversions, I fully believe that we go through things just as we're meant to. And it was so hard for me to see in that first year or two of business when I was kind of riding the struggle bus. It was so hard for me to see that. And I see it now. And I look back and I'm like, oh yeah, everything happened just as it was meant to. Like, and you got to make those hard decisions. Like you say, if you don't follow it, you'll never know. And at the time where I made that transition to, being a business mentor, I was so resistant because I was like, I don't want to be like just another business coach. Like they're all scammers, or like they're all seen as scammers. Like the industry's got a real problem. I don't want to like add to
Yeah.
that. And that was my own projections of like, of course you're not going to be adding to that because you're not like that. So stop putting yourself in that box. You're not going to be seen as that. And, at the time I was like, I've written a book. Like I had my first published book come out on shadow work, and I was like, I'm making too much of a change. And so you've got to make those scary steps if you feel drawn to do it for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And the piece about the business coaches, I think that all comes back to your own personal integrity. I don't think
Yes.
that's
Yeah.
the label of business coach isn't the thing that's causing the issues. It's the
Hmm.
the human and the behind that label and their own personal integrity. We won't go into that on today's episode because we could talk probably for a long
Yeah.
time on that because I have views on it too. Um, but um, talk to us a little bit more then about this idea of not ditching social media, but like minimizing our reliance on social media. And what is it you teach, coach your students on to enable them to grow their business beyond these platforms that we are led to believe are the be all and end all?
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for asking. It's a great question. I think at the moment, and honestly, in the last kind of what are we, 2026? Yeah, 5, 6 years, it's been a real, just the rise of the, post-pandemic kind of boom of online business owners, I hope not owners, especially in like the coaching industries. That was huge for platforms like Instagram because it was relatively untrodden back then.
Yeah.
Um, it's not now. We've got a whole load of noise that we didn't have before. And I think people are still pushing out the advice that was true 6 years ago. And people are like, yeah, no, it's going to work for me. It's worked for other people. I need to just keep going. And um, it's dangerous because it gets people really, really hooked. And so the issue that I'm seeing now a lot is people saying, I hate Instagram. I don't want to post on there every day. But if not Instagram, where? That phrase has literally come up multiple times this
Yeah.
year. If not Instagram, where? If not TikTok, where? And I'm it kind of only hit me at the beginning of this year. Like I didn't realize that so many people didn't have other foundations built out. And so last year I was teaching a lot about social media and kind of how to make social media work again, like still with your energy, your capacity. But I didn't realize the weight of like how many people didn't have other foundations built out. And so it kind of hit me like a freight train when I started to figure that out at the end of last year. And I think that that's really the problem. Like I said, it's not evil, social media. You can use it if you want, but you can't make that your bread and butter because it's so fickle. It's very, very challenging platform. You almost have to morph yourself into, in my opinion, into an influencer or an attention grabber. That's what I know a lot
Yeah.
about social media. As I've said, like I taught about it last year. I've definitely been through in my own journey everything that you can imagine with it. And so I have a lot of knowledge there. Not to make myself that's not in like an egoic way, but I've seen the layers to it. And so
Yeah.
in order
And the
to like get
clickbaity
to
stuff I mean,
yeah.
it does my head in because you're like, how can I fight as somebody with integrity and morals and, a real strong inner compass that I need to help people?
Mhm.
How can I possibly compete against the clickbaits of this world where they're literally putting out who knows what, but managing to get the views that are,
Yeah.
yeah, it's really frustrating.
It is. It is. It is. And that's the thing is that we get caught up in our ethics and we should get caught up in our ethics. So
Yeah.
I always say don't try and bypass that because you have that for a reason that makes you a professional. And so the rhetoric and the truth about getting reach on social media is that you do need to kind of grab the attention. That's how you get reach. And that's why so many people aren't able to do that because cool. And this is where it gets a little bit hairy because people say, like, oh, your limiting beliefs are getting in the way of you showing up on social media. And I kind of question that because sometimes I think, are they? Or do you just not want to put content out that way? And it's not a limiting belief and it's your ethics, quote
Yeah.
unquote, getting in the way.
I think
So I don't always think,
there's probably
yeah,
both going on, isn't there? Because
yeah,
people do get in their own way, either because
yeah.
they think it has to be perfect, or because they worry about what they might look like, or sound
Hmm.
like, or how they might come across, or all of that.
Hmm.
That's the
Yeah,
limiting beliefs. Whereas the ethics part is I don't want to show up as some a-hole
yeah,
who's just clickbaiting left, right, and centre.
exactly.
Um, and that's not a limiting belief. That is you standing true to you and what you want to be able to share with the world.
Yeah, so right. I think, and that's the most important part is knowing which one is which, is knowing is that a limiting belief, and we will get them at every level. Every level you move up, you'll have those limiting beliefs. It's super fun, like it doesn't stop. Sorry, guys, it just doesn't stop. But we also have our truth, and it's really important to pay attention to that. And so, yeah. There's a lot of people who will struggle with social media because they just don't want to show up like that. So that's really the struggle that I've been seeing is yeah, people knowing that they dislike it, but feeling confined to it because they don't know where else to actually get visible. And visibility is that kind of first part. And people are, I think, almost in like a prison with it.
Yeah. So where else can people go then for that visibility? If let's just park social media, pretend we're not even on social media, full stop. How are you coaching and sharing and teaching with your coachees, your students?
Yeah.
Um, where do they get their visibility?
Yeah, so this is like the big question and this was the part that kind of shocked me at the end of last year of like, oh God, this is a problem because people think it's either Instagram or in-person networking, and that's it. There's no in between. That's literally it. And like that's not to shame, that's not me shaming you like, oh my God, I can't believe you don't know this. Like it's like no, like really it's a problem. Like a lot of people haven't been told this information and I'm not going to gatekeep it. So there's no need to. And I think that this is probably because actually I view 6 years or the 6 years from like kind of 2020 as like a short amount of time, but I forget how many new business owners who have come in within that time, within the last few years. And of course, Instagram's all they've known. Because
Yeah,
this is also what I'm being told. The more I'm, if you can't tell, I'm on a mission this year. So I'm kind of getting into certain partnerships with coaching organizations, or that's kind of my thing is really to see what's the break between people getting qualified and people moving on to marketing. And I'm getting a lot of feedback from people of, some, not all, of course, there are some great ones, some coaching certifications or practitioner certifications are kind of saying, okay, here's a marketing module, and all that's being said on that marketing module is choose one platform, post content, and stick to it. And it's like, it makes me honestly feel a bit sick. So
yeah,
when I say this stuff of like, it's not meant to shame anyone, but it is definitely like a big wake up call for everyone. So visibility without social media, like I say, it's not just Instagram or in person. There is a whole world out there. So what I tend to focus on with my students, and this is works quite well, funnily enough, whether you're introverted or extroverted, because you can kind of adapt it to suit. So things like podcast guesting is great. It's one of my favorite. I love to talk, in case you didn't already realize. So, strategic podcast guesting is really, really important, making sure that you're not kind of just going on for a jolly, although like, have calls for that, but just, they're not going to be the ones that you're going to kind of work to get visible on, have chats with people, of course. But strategic podcast guesting where you can go and really teach and really get into like the swing of sharing your expertise. This is what a lot of coaches and practitioners love and do really, really well at, because I hear it from a lot of people, like, if I could just show up and teach and I didn't have to quote unquote market, then I'd be happy. And it's like, you can do it that way and that's still marketing. It's just not how
Yeah.
you think, you know? So podcast guesting is something that my students love. Online summits, so where you kind of show up and present or teach, whether that's live or pre-recorded, is a really, really good one. Guest teaching in communities is amazing. So these are all kind of collaboration-based strategies that I teach is, and this, because this is the other thing is, oh, I'll just move on to long form content. I'll start my own podcast. I'll start my own YouTube channel. I'll start my own blog. Great, do that. But that's going to take a hot minute to
Yeah.
build traction.
And
So
also, you're not
collaboration.
getting in front of different new audiences when you do that.
Exactly.
It's your audience that you're building, which is great, but you need to be getting in front of other people's audiences too. Yeah.
Definitely. Exactly. Yeah. And the more you can do that, the more, yeah, the more a reputation you build online, but the more traction you can get because yeah, you're not showing up to the same audience that's relatively small. You're essentially you could be doubling your audience every time you teach or
Yeah.
you do a training or you podcast guest. And that collaboration is so important. And also a lot of people hate the word networking, but your network is really important as well, making sure that you actually have other business owners kind of in or adjacent to you, who can kind of rally behind you a little bit that you can share with them and they can share with you because the goal of marketing is to become top of mind. And that comes from also having a good network of people
Yeah.
who can recommend you. And that's how you can get a really good referral system started as well. So that's
Yeah.
kind of the initial visibility piece or kind of an insight into the way that I teach visibility. The difficult part about this is what I see and what I work on quite heavily with my own students is making sure that you can do this and get visible consistently without burning yourself out. Because people think, okay, all of this, great. I'm going to do like a couple hours a day and I'm just going to like apply for random stuff and like I'm going to try and get seen and I'm going to go on all these things and then they burn themselves out. And so the goal of this, if it's replacing social media, we don't want to just replicate the same kind of thing of like showing up every
The
day because
hustle.
good marketing doesn't need you to show up every day. It needs you to show up intentionally week by week. If you have a
Yeah.
week off, it's all good. A couple weeks off, that it's a compounding effect basically. So I work a lot on kind of like time blocking week by week with people to make sure that, okay, you're doing a few hours a week or a couple hours a week of outreach and you're sourcing those opportunities to get visible. You're also setting aside time to kind of follow up with those people, do all of the kind of the back end stuff that really moves the needle forward. And you have a rhythm and you have consistency, but it's not showing up the same every day. This is really where it starts to change for people in terms of actually getting it done.
I just love all of this. As somebody who has tried desperately for years and years and years to win clients on social media.
Hmm.
And and this is no word of a lie because I did a podcast episode on this a little while back. I have had one cold DM on social
Yeah.
media in 12 years.
Hmm.
12 years I've been on social media in different capacities, offering different things, and I've had one cold DM. Now, that's not to say that I'm not building trust on social media. So I just want to caveat that I do still post on social media, but I
Yeah.
use it in a very different way now. And it's linking really nicely in with what you're sharing, Polly, is that um, I do workshops, I do networking, I go to events, I go on other people's podcasts, all of that stuff. And then if people like my energy and my personality, because I think that's what shows through so beautifully when you do something like a podcast recording or a workshop, they get to know you right there, right then in a very short space of time. They can then go and check you out on social media and it builds the trust behind what you're sharing in the other visibility pieces. So that's the way I now use social media.
Hmm.
I'm probably still on it more than I would like to be. So that's a change in habit for me, a
Hmm.
behavior change I need to sort of commit to. But I love all of that. And And I love the fact you're talking about energy and capacity because those people who listen to pep talks know that's everything I talk about on here because we have a limited amount of energy and a limited amount of time and a limited amount of capacity. And we need to optimize how we use that so that we can still enjoy life on the other side of business.
Hmm.
Um, so I guess it's about finding the particular um, mechanics that work for you. So, is podcast your favorite way of speaking? Is workshops your favorite way of speaking? Do you love networking? Because if you do a bit more of it.
Yeah.
And with networking, I guess when all of this, as you mentioned, follow up is key, right? You know,
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I mean, you've hit the nail on the head. Like looking at where you feel like you could show up for days on end, not that you will, but looking at where you could if you wanted to is such a good indicator on what you'll be able to do more of that won't burn you out. Because a lot of the time, feeling burnt out or becoming burnt out is not actually just about the time spent. It's about doing activity. Like if I had to go back to posting every day, I would rather stick pins in my eyes. Like I would probably become feeling burnt out pretty fast.
yeah,
So definitely looking at where you enjoy showing up. And then just going back to what you said about people hearing you on podcasts and then people following you on socials. Such a good point. I love that still. I'm not on socials posting, but what I always recommend to students is like use those DMs because like that's how you build relationships. And I'm in it for the long run relationships and like
yeah,
so should everybody. And people will still follow you on social media and say, "Hey, I heard you on this podcast," or you'll get to know them. If you're not posting, DM your new followers and just say, "Hey, like thanks for following me. I'm curious as I'm just nosy. How did you find me?" Because it's always good to know how people found you, and then you can build relationships with that person. That's
yeah,
not me suggesting cold DMing your new followers like with a pitch. Definitely don't do that. But get to know people.
yeah,
Also, what I really teach is fixing that breaking connection with a bit more automation. So rather than going on a podcast and kind of having that bridge for people to jump of following you on social media, what I'd really recommend is after you teach on a podcast or a guest training, or you're showing up in kind of some similar capacity, have something that will act as like a quote unquote lead magnet that will give major value to your listeners, and then you can link that to your email list so people are actually in your world if you're not posting on social media, that is, and your email list is like the main place for people to hear from you. You want to make sure those people are in your world so you can consistently give them like more value every week and keep in touch with them. So make sure you're kind of filling that gap and getting people onto your email community if that's your main hub as well.
yeah. You're absolutely missing a trick if you somehow don't draw people into your world. And
Definitely.
offering them, as you say, something that's high value and free
Mhm.
is such a great way because if they've enjoyed listening to you or watching you and they've enjoyed what you have to share, then they're going to jump in and grab that thing because they know that it's going to be the thing that they need, or they know it's going to be fun, or it's just going to add some sort of value to their life. That's amazing.
Definitely.
Um, so how do you manage your own personal energy and capacity?
Yeah, I mean, I am a recovering workaholic, so I love my work. I love my work is my pride and joy. That's the thing. I'm so passionate about the work that I do. I love my work more than anything in my life. And well, okay, maybe not like the sea and surfing, but like it's my baby, and I have no like shame in admitting that because I think although my whole stance is like energy friendly marketing, capacity conscious marketing, there are a lot of similar kind of voices in this realm who are kind of like, your work shouldn't be your life. You need to be working 1 hour a day. You need to completely detach. Well, I'm afraid I can't do that because I don't want to work 1 hour a day. I actually really don't. Like why am I doing it? It's not something I got into for passive income. I love being a mentor, and I'm sure, people listening, if you're in these similar fields, you're the same. It's like, no, my work is my purpose or an element of that. And so, yes, I am definitely always working on having a work-life balance, though. As much as I do love my work and I don't want to, work 1 hour a day, I also need to keep a real cap on my own self so that I don't work really long days. And I am so sneaky in the way that I'll do that. If I've got an hour free sometimes, I will sometimes feel myself reverting back to, oh, we could just, and then I'm like, no, we couldn't. We're going to take that hour unless it's like something really important that needs doing. It's not going to happen. So I really have to like manage that part of my energy as well. Like that white space in your calendar is good. Go and have a walk in the forest, let those creative juices flow, and actually something better will probably come out of it anyway that you can
100,
work on the next day.
100%, 100%.
Yeah.
And do you notice when your energy, you're hitting that wall of like, actually, I have pushed a bit too hard? Do you notice that? And if you do, where do you notice it? How do you notice it? What does it feel like?
Yeah, so frustration is what it feels like for me. I can get really frustrated when I know I'm pushing it too hard for no reason. Because these days it's not. I think my body sometimes can go back to that first year in business of when it's like my I was basically living in a state of fight or flight because I'm like I need new clients like right now or I'm not going to get my bills paid for. Like I need to and sometimes when I overdo it, my system will go back to that. And so it's work to manage it, but I'll feel kind of impatient and frustrated and I'll look for something to fix. Those are my three kind of things that I'll know are instant tells of like you need to pack this in right now. You got to take a walk. It rarely happens, but it when it does, I'll notice it. I'll notice it as just kind of getting very frustrated, and I'll get like an eye. It sounds really weird, but I'll get like an eye twitch of like my
Right.
lower like lobe. What is that? Lower lobe?
Lid,
One of
your lower
lid. Oh
lid.
yeah, my lobe, my earlobe just starts twitching. No. That's so weird. My lower eyelid will just kind of start like like quivering, I guess, and that's a sign of like your nervous system is a little bit shot. So yeah, like I said, it's very rare, but it's we all have our patterns that will crop back up at times from time to time. So yeah,
Yeah,
that's one of the ways that I tell.
amazing. Okay. Um, how are we doing? I think we've probably covered. Is there anything else you want to share that's burning, like burning desire to share something with the listeners?
Yeah, I just think, if you are resonating with this and you kind of have been told like social media is the only way or like you're not going to be visible enough without social media or no one's going to take you seriously without having a strong social media presence, I would really just invite you to challenge that. Um I think a lot of people are scared about the reputation side of things, like who's going to take you seriously if you're not on social media. And the only way I can put it is look at the amount of noise that's on social media at the moment, how much unserious stuff, how little trust you probably have when you see an annoying ad or an annoying reel come up. That's not reputation. Reputation's created by really, really making a name for yourself in spaces that are established and have people in there who are looking for you and are ready and attentively listening. So I would just say challenge it. If you love social media, go off queen, keep being your best self. But if you're listening to this and you're like, oh my gosh, I really don't want to focus primarily on that, challenge it because the goal here is really to build, like I said, that sustainable marketing ecosystem from visibility to building like a solid email community, in my opinion, and then being able to kind of sell that signature
Yeah.
offer within that on repeat and building trust through human
Yeah.
relationships.
And as you mentioned a couple of minutes back, it's about the relationship building and knowing that it might take a little while for somebody to convert from hearing you on a podcast to actually becoming a paying client. But it is about the trust and the relationship. And then they'll not only become a paying client of yours, but they will also be your advocate and they will be spreading to the world how amazing you are at what you do because
Yeah.
not they haven't chosen to work with you because you've waved some magic wand and gone here's a magic solution to your problem. They've
Yeah.
actually started working with you because they believe in what you've got to share with them.
Mm.
And so yeah, that becomes a huge ripple effect out beyond that one-to-one client working relationship. It becomes a ripple effect out to everybody that they connect with too. So yeah, I love
Absolutely.
that. Okay, so as ever, we're going to end on the one question I ask everybody. So, how do you bring peace and ease into your own life and business?
Wow, good question. Yeah, like I said, keeping a cap on it, hard work to me is actually working hard to create that peace for yourself. I love Yeah. So, I think honestly, the way that I bring peace and ease to my business is one, having systems, like I said, that kind of, work with my life and don't need me to show up online and look at my screen every waking minute, but also the lifestyle stuff. I need the lifestyle stuff to bring more peace to my business. And so I love to hoop. I love to hula hoop. That's like my thing.
Cool.
I just love it. I love to surf. I love to just go and walk barefoot out in the forest. And the more time that we actually create, like the more time we actually spend doing that and like not forgetting what kind of lights our soul up beyond work, the better we can be in our work and the more peaceful we can be in our work as well. So
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. We're on exactly the same wavelength. Although I don't do much surfing, which is a crime given I live 2 miles from the sea. But I've had one surf lesson, and I loved it. I loved it, but I just
Yeah.
haven't been back for one reason or another. So maybe you're going to inspire me to go and do a bit more surfing.
Yeah. Do it.
Because yeah, I don't even get to the beach and the sea as often as I really would like to, but that's just the nature of life
Mhm.
sometimes. And just having it there and knowing it's there is part of it, I
Yeah.
think. And taking the
Yeah.
opportunities when they are available. So on the day we're recording this, it's beautiful weather outside. And yesterday I
Mhm.
had a gap in my morning. My first call was at 11. And so I did take the dog, who we can see in shot over there, for those of you on YouTube. I took her down to the beach. So I was, gone for a good hour and a half, hour and 45. So it's grabbing those
Yeah.
opportunities when they're available, isn't it? I think that's the thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you know what? I've got a pretty free afternoon. You've just inspired me. I'm gonna go for a swim. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do
Cool.
it.
Oh, I love
Hell
that.
yeah.
I love that. Amazing. Okay. So, for those people who have listened and thought, Polly, I love your vibe. I love the way you approach marketing and building a business as somebody with a busy brain. I was going to say, where can people follow you? But you're not on social media. Or maybe, well, I know you are because you shared a link with me and I've seen you on social media, but we know you don't hang out on social media. So, what's the best way for people to connect with you?
Yeah, so I'll leave a link with you for a little tool that will get you started with everything that we've spoken about here from the visibility standpoint. So this is really for the people here who are wanting to get visible and take that kind of first step of like, okay, let's take this game off of social media. So that is basically a two-part kit. Which has a training where I'm going to walk you through a little bit more in depth of what we've covered here today. And then there's actually a customizable Notion dash with things like trackers, time blocking, um, like tracking your opportunities, making sure you're doing your follow-ups and stuff like that. So it's two parts. You'll actually be able to put it into practice rather than just kind of thinking it and being like, oh, okay, this isn't going to happen. So you'll be able to actually use that to get started with that first step. That's normally $59, but I'm going to give you a code to put in the show notes description with the link so you can get it for free and that will be yours straight
Amazing.
away. And then you can come follow me on Instagram if you so please. Like I said, I'm still in the DMs and I love to chat. So that's Polly Pollock official on Instagram.
Amazing. Amazing. I'll put, as Polly says, I'll put all those details down in the show notes. So just head on down there and click to your heart's content. And if you can get something that's normally $59 for free, it's a no-brainer, right? Amazing. Well, thank you so much for hanging out with me today, Polly. I hope you've enjoyed this as much as I have. I hope the listeners have enjoyed this too. Um, and I'll be back with you again very soon with another Pep Talks.